Shiro was an average salaryman in modern-day Japan, living a soulless life where he had the same routine every single day while always yearning for more. Every morning he woke up and took a bus to the office, worked till late in the evening before returning back to his dingy apartment where he would spend the rest of the time watching TikTok brain rot. He always wanted more out of his life, and his wishes finally come true. When one night he wakes up to find himself in a white void with nothing to see, his eyes soon focus, and he finds out that he is sitting in front of a white-haired K-pop idol who claims that he is God himself. Shiro isn't a 13-year-old girl though, so he sits there unimpressed, asking where exactly he is. The K-pop god reveals that Shiro had died and is currently in a limbo where his soul is about to disappear forever, but God is willing to give him an option. God reveals that he can send him down to a different fantasy world called Madius if he wants, where he can relive his life as anyone he wants. This immediately grabs Shiro's attention, who felt like this was a dream come true. The god immediately takes out a clipboard and starts writing down the special skills that he would integrate within Shiro. And soon the time runs out and Shiro is sent to the fantasy world of Madius. When Shiro wakes up again, he finds himself in the middle of a forest and is overjoyed at the prospect of getting a second chance at life. He immediately gets up and starts exploring the world and soon finds his way out of the forest where he spots a small village at a distance. He immediately wants to check out what cool things he could find there, but decides that if he shows up without any money, people will think he is shady and won't even give him anything to eat. Suddenly, he remembers God telling him that he will have boosted scouting skills, which he could use to find expensive items and ingredients to sell it for a good sum. He stands up confidently with a stick in his hands and shouts to activate the magic, only to realize that nothing happened. This scares him, as he wonders whether the god just scammed him, but soon he figures out that he was simply not using the correct word for it. When he uses the word search, the scouting magic activates, immediately showing him the locations of every single collectible item in the forest. He realizes that this ability is really handy, and then tries to use another one of his abilities, which lets him gain more information about that particular item. He tries a combination of words, when finally the word scan helps him activate his abilities, and he manages to get more information about the type of things he could gather. Just like you at a buffet, Shiro grabs every single thing he could and analyzes their levels before putting it all in his side bag, which is also magical and lets him store as much stuff as possible without any shady subscription fee. With all the materials gathered safely in his tote bag, he decides to move towards the village. By the time sun starts setting over the horizon, Shiro finally reaches the main gate of the village, which was being guarded by a lone guard. Shiro greets the man, which wakes him up from his sleep, and it turns out that the people of this village are all short kings, making Shiro the tallest guy here, which means lots of bitches for him. The guard asks whether Shiro is a swordsman or a knight, but is surprised to know that Shiro is primarily a gatherer, which is not very common in this world. The guard opens the door for Shiro and tells him to find the main shop at the village center, which usually deals with stuff like this. Shiro enters the peaceful village and starts moving through the wide path where lots of villagers were staring at him from afar, wondering who this new stranger was. Shiro, however, makes a beeline for the main shop and enters the dark store. The man behind the counter greets him warmly and asks what exactly he wants to sell. Shiro takes out an oval smooth rock, which the shopkeeper grabs and immediately recognizes to be anteater poop. He claims that he has never seen such a perfect specimen and tells Shiro that he would love to buy it from him for 5 silver coins. He realizes that 5 silver coins is basically 350 bucks, which is more money than most of you will ever see. He immediately agrees to the deal, which makes the shopkeeper really happy as he keeps rubbing up and down his face. The shopkeeper asks whether Shiro has anything else to sell, and Shiro immediately puts out all the stuff he hoarded from the forest. The shopkeeper is absolutely stunned at the sight of so many items of such great quality, and asks Shiro why would he come to a small village like this to sell such incredible items which can get him a lot of money in any big city. Shiro immediately lies that he is just a traveler who has been collecting stuff and traveling to different parts of the country. The shopkeeper recognizes his talent though and gives him a job to collect some valuable gems from the icy mountains nearby, where he might also come across some monsters. Shiro wasn't so sure whether he wanted to go for a mission like this right now, but the shopkeeper promises to pay 20 grand for the gems, which leaves him with no options but to accept. With that, he bids the shopkeeper farewell and roams around the village, finally finding an inn for himself. He gets a comfortable room inside and lays on the hard bed, tired from the day's work. wishing that he could take a bath and get the dirt and grime off of him. Just then, there is a knock at the door and a young girl enters the room with a tub filled with water for him to wash himself. Shiro, however, has only ever taken showers and asks what the hell is he supposed to do with this shit. The girl tells him that he is stinky and needs to wash himself with a damp towel to get cleaned, but Shiro asks whether they have a shower instead. The girl gets confused at this and tells Shiro that they have no such things since only the nobles get to take a proper bath while the rest are supposed to clean themselves with water and a towel. Shiro can't believe that something as basic as a bath is gatekept from the commoners, but the girl tells him that there are some mages who are able to perform magic and give other people baths in exchange for money. This information gives Shiro a sudden idea, and he pushes the girl out of the room after handing her the money with some tip. After closing the door, Shiro starts practicing his spells and finally manages to use a spell which makes him a waterbender, allowing him to take the much-needed bath. Finally, after freshening up, he lays down on the bed from exhaustion, still missing his showers, but decides to sleep so he can get an early start on the day. The next morning, he wakes up at the crack of dawn and moves towards the forest looking for all sorts of things to gather. While searching for some mushrooms, he soon spots a weird-looking mark coming from one of the bushes, so he goes in to investigate, only to find a decomposed corpse on the ground. He gets jump-scared and falls flat on his before catching his breath and going for a better look. He figures out that this guy was a security corps member who must have died fighting some monsters. He wonders whether he should just leave the area, but decides otherwise. He takes the body and buries it deep within the ground before putting his sword as a headstone for the grave of the fallen man. With that out of the way, he decides to make some supper, and since the sun was already setting, he first creates a magical barrier around him and then sits on the ground before putting a pot over an open fire. Since he is not an idiot sandwich, he decides to make his own dinner with some wild green veggies that he found and some meat that he had. He makes a stew out of the ingredients, which turns out to be super tasty, ending the night on a high note. The next morning he moves towards the haunted forest, which is completely crowded by dead trees and fog, making it difficult to see even in daylight. He uses his light magic to see and enters inside the forest, knowing that this place is known to have loads of monsters, but as far as he can see there is nothing living present inside the forest. He starts collecting anything of value, and soon he is done with the place and decides to exit. He spots the light at the exit and races towards it, not knowing that he was rushing straight towards a dangerous ledge. He ends up falling down the cavern and would have surely died if not for his quick thinking as he uses flight magic to regain control and starts floating mid-air. He touches the ground softly and lets out a sigh of relief, realizing how close he came to death, deciding to take things more seriously and be more careful from now on. He again uses his light magic inside the cave, and to his surprise, the area is filled with different kinds of ores. He quickly gets out a small hammer and gets to work, chiseling away the ores from the surrounding rocks, soon filling his bag up with a decent amount. He notices another ore at a distance, but a sudden earthquake reminds him that he can't spend much time here, so he quickly uses his fireball magic to blast away at the rock so he could get the ore quicker. To his delight, this ore turns out to be the Misril ore, which the shopkeeper wanted, so he quickly pockets it, but decides to go in further even after another earthquake hit. After a while, he notices some blue light coming from the end of the tunnel, so he follows it, only to find an opening with the bluest lake he has ever seen in the middle of it. He quickly descends down the rocks to scan the lake, which turns out to be SS tier, magical water. This is by far the coolest thing that he has found so far, so he immediately decides that he must take some of it back with him. But he starts wondering whether he has a canteen big enough to hold water, and whether it would start leaking. Before he could decide anything though, a huge black dragon emerges from the depths, spraying water everywhere and drenching Shiro as well, as he screams, asking who woke him from his deep sleep. Shiro has seen enough though, and doesn't even flinch before going back to his default state as a soulless salaryman who always bowed to every single person in his life. He bows down to the dragon, apologizing for entering its lair, but the dragon finds it hilarious, since he has never seen a man of such nerves, and asks who exactly is he. Shiro replies that he is a normal human, which the dragon refuses to believe since he can sense a huge amount of magical energy flowing through Shiro, which is almost on par with the magical energy in the dragons itself. The dragon asks Shiro whether he could help him, since only someone with an incredible amount of magic could help him in the situation which he is stuck in. He claims that he has an egg which is not hatching even though it's been a very long time, and asks whether Shiro could help him with it. He claims that he won't ask him to do it for free, and simply touches the water from which dozens of huge mithril ores emerge. Shiro immediately agrees to the arrangement, so the dragon takes out a black egg and throws it towards Shiro. Shiro grabs the egg, trying to listen for a heartbeat before wondering what exactly is he supposed to do with it. Suddenly, he remembers that eggs are supposed to be warm, so he uses his heat magic to instill warmth in the shell, which suddenly starts sucking out the energy from Shiro, making him wonder whether it was a scam and whether he is about to die. He blacks out and finds himself surrounded by warm water, where another K-pop god with black hair appears, claiming that Shiro has started doing which is disrupting the flow of this world. Shiro asks whether he is dead, but the god replies that not yet, and with that, Shiro returns back to his senses, waking up in darkness. He uses his light magic only to find out that the baby dragon has successfully hatched out of its shell. The dragon seems overjoyed while the baby dragon gets his footing on the ground. The dragon thanks Shiro for his help and asks him to give it a name. Like an idiot, Shiro decides to call the baby dragon B, after which the dragon completely shocks Shiro by saying that from now on B is going to stay with Shiro himself. Shiro can't believe that something so incredibly rare and beautiful could be bound to him. But the big black dragon tells him that he is already super strong and can surely protect the baby. With that, the dragon disappears beneath the surface of water, leaving Shiro and B to continue their journey together. Shiro and B soon exit the cave, and it is already evening by then. B starts flying around happily because it is the first time she is seeing the outside world, and Shiro realizes that it will get dark soon. He decides to set up camp nearby and then fills a glass with the magical water from the lake. The ancient dragon used his magic to connect Shiro's magic bag to the lake, because the magical water is absolutely necessary for B's growth. She quickly finishes one glass and then asks for another, and Shiro pours her a refill. However, B kindly hands it to him because she wants him to drink the nutritious water and be happy as well. After that, Shiro uses some magic stones to create a barrier, skipping the hassle of speaking the full spells out loud. He knows that magic stones are really rare in this world after reading a book he bought from Shakespeare, but that is not an issue for him because he can create magic stones easily. He concentrates heat magic in his palm and creates a magic stone that creates a controlled flame for cooking food. With the fire on, Shiro begins preparing meat stew and B starts drooling uncontrollably on seeing it. Shiro thinks that she should be able to digest some stew and pours her a bowl. He warns her that it is too hot, but B gulps it down quickly and burns her tongue, which is pretty pathetic for a dragon. Shiro has to blow on the stew to make it cool enough for her to drink, and B drinks it till she is full and exhausted. Shiro finds her really cute, but then he asks her if she doesn't miss her dad at all. B immediately jumps over to hug him to tell him that she is happy to be with him. Shiro checks out her stats and finds that she is already at rank B and has some impressive gifts. He is shocked to read that, but thinks that no matter how strong she is, B is still a kid and she needs an adult to guide her. He begins telling her that even if she is stronger than him, she should not do anything reckless and listen to him. But the baby dragon is too sleepy, and she starts snoring mid-lecture. On seeing her sleep, Shiro thinks that he got a cute partner, but not in the sense he asked the K-pop god, and wonders if the god did this on purpose. The next morning, Shiro climbs up the cliff he fell from yesterday and reaches the forest. To his surprise, the forest looks completely different, and he thinks that it must be one of the quirky things that happen in this world. As B starts exploring the nearby area, Shiro decides to search for useful items and finds a bunch of new herbs. Suddenly, he feels a strange tingling, and the very next moment, B comes flying towards him, visibly scared of something. Shiro immediately searches for monsters nearby, and a bunch of pointers appear on the radar. That is surprising because he didn't find any monsters on the previous day and wonders if his bad smell that was repelling the monsters has been washed away. He is not afraid to fight the monsters because he might get some good materials after defeating them. However, the danger is not only in the forest, and soon a C-rank rock falcon appears behind him. B is terrified of the ferocious-looking creature, but Shiro finds it cute compared to the ancient dragon. As he reads the monster's description, he finds that its meat is tasty, and that is enough for him to hunt the monster. He first creates a shield and then shoots ice spikes at the rock falcon, bringing it down instantly. Shiro is happy that he got one ingredient, but then B points out to the monsters coming from the forest. He turns around to find wolves with snakes for tails and decides to face them in close combat. He casts enchantment spells to make his body lighter and faster, so when the first wolf attacks him, he dodges it by jumping high in the air. He then makes his body ultra hard with magic and lands a kick to the first wolf's head, immediately unaliving it. The other wolves attack him, but Shiro is too fast for them. He dodges their attacks and takes them out using powerful and swift kicks. Shiro collects meat from all monsters, but soon after that, he spots more monsters coming from the forest. He is annoyed now because he can't keep fighting forever, so Bee decides to help him. She tries flying while carrying him and Shiro thinks that she can't do it. However, Bee uses her girl power to lift him up and Shiro decides to help her by reducing his weight. He casts a spell to make himself lighter, but Bee was not expecting that and suddenly shoots high up in the sky. Shiro panics and tells her that she is flying too high, and the surprised Bee drops him. Shiro starts screaming as he falls to the ground, but the trees act as a cushion and he lands safely. Bee flies after him and begins licking his face, and Shiro is low-key annoyed by her. As he gets up, he finds they have come out of the forest, because Bee was faster than a fighter jet. He thanks her for helping him and asks her to hold back her power a little bit the next time because he is much more fragile than her. But Bee doesn't understand those complicated words and hugs him tightly, breaking a couple ribs. After that, they resume their journey to the village and Shiro starts waving around a branch he found in his backpack. He tells Bee that it is the branch of the legendary tree Yggdrasil that is said to embody the world itself, but it is currently asleep. Well, Bee knows how to wake up the sleeping branch, and she breathes out a cloud of stinky gas that turns the tiny branch into a staff. Shiro is shocked to see this and wonders if a gatherer like him can even use a staff. He doesn't want people to think that he is a normie wizard or something, but his thoughts are disrupted when he hears a loud roar. Shiro immediately gets alert and ready to fight, but Bee flies towards the direction of the roar, making him worry about her. Shiro follows her and finds her circling a tree. As soon as he reaches the tree, he finds a ragged and exhausted elf and asks her if she was attacked by the monster. The elf refuses and suddenly her stomach makes the loud roaring sound that had Shiro panicking. The elf woman tells him that she hasn't eaten anything in 3 days and Shiro can't believe that the terrifying roar is actually coming from her stomach. She asks for water, and he immediately hands her his bottle that she empties in one go. The water makes her feel better, but it doesn't do anything to ease her hunger and Shiro begins looking for a lunchbox that he brought along. He offers the lunchbox to the elf girl who greedily devours it and then shoots a hyper beam of joy, saying that the food is so delicious that she feels like she is going to heaven. Shiro is taken aback because he never thought elves could behave so uncivilized, but he tells her that the food tastes good just because she has been starving for 3 days. He then asks her how could she run out of food so quickly when there is a village not so far away from her location. She gets uncomfortable with the question and then Shiro starts roasting her, saying that even noobs who don't know anything carry a lunchbox with them on journeys. The elf gets pissed and gets close to quarrel with him, but Shiro immediately moves back because she stinks. This racist with OCD says that he thought that elves would smell like peppermint and strawberries, but she smells like fresh manure. The elf gets angry at him and says she couldn't clean herself because she had to camp out for many days. She gets ready to leave quickly after that, thanking Shiro for the food, but telling him that it is gay to make fun of someone they just met. She runs away with that and Shiro is left disappointed after his first encounter with an elf. Anyway, he gets back to gathering materials and then exits the forest. Bee spots a carriage coming towards them from over a mile away and Shiro is really impressed by that. Soon, the carriage comes close enough and Shiro is awestruck on seeing a unicorn pulling it. The merchant driving the carriage is surprised to see him as well and asks what he is doing here. Shiro tells him that he is heading to the Tormi village on foot, and the merchant's family peek out of the carriage to see who is outside. The man looks at Shiro's staff and asks if he is a wizard or something, and he nervously replies that he is just a gatherer. That is more impressive because gathering experts are quite rare in this world. The man then invites Shiro to ride with them because they are also going to the Tormi village. He asks him if it will be fine for someone as tall and heavy as him to ride the carriage, but the man has no problem with that at all. Shiro takes up his offer and enters the carriage, learning that the kids find him amusing because he is extremely tall. As Shiro thanks the family for giving him a ride, they tell him it is not a big deal because people in this region always help each other out. They are really friendly towards him, and Shiro feels that they are too trusting for their own good. He asks them what they would do if he were a bandit and then tries to scare the kids, but the boy tells him that he can't be a bandit because the bell didn't ring. Shiro doesn't understand, so the woman shows him a bell with a magic crystal inside it that rings when a bad person is nearby. Shiro is impressed by this idea and thinks he can make the magic crystal himself too. He suddenly remembers that he hasn't introduced himself, so he tells the family about himself, and they introduce themselves too. The man driving the carriage is Plum, his wife is named Eliza, and their kids are called Yunin and Kane. While they are exchanging greetings, B suddenly starts making noises, and the kids notice that the sound is coming from Shiro's back. They are eager to see what he is hiding under his coat, and Shiro gets nervous, telling him that it is a rare monster, so they might be shocked on seeing it. Eliza tells him that it is not a big deal because adventurers usually have monsters accompanying them. This statement gives Shiro the confidence to let B out, but only after warning her not to bite anyone. The kids are smitten by B's cuteness, but the parents are surprised because dragons are quite rare monsters. Plum asks Shiro if he is a dragon knight since he has a pet dragon, and he explains that he coincidentally found a dragon egg and hatched it. But that is even more shocking for Plum and Eliza. They say that dragon knights are really hard to see and dragons are even more rare. Shiro gets curious about dragon knights now, and based on the anime he saw in the past life, he thinks they must be real badasses. Soon, night arrives and the family decides to set up camp. Shiro creates light and then places magic stones around the campsite to create a barrier. He tells everyone that the magic stones will keep the monsters away, but if something happens, B will alert them. The family puts their full trust in B instead of Shiro and the magic stones, and he is low-key disappointed. After that, Eliza gets ready to prepare dinner, but Shiro asks her to let him cook instead. He pulls out the cooking utensils and ingredients from his magic bag, which is another surprise for the family. He then prepares food with the ingredients he found today, and everyone is amazed by the taste. Plum even starts crying because he was bored to death after eating dried meat every single day of the journey. He says that Shiro is surely a magician, and he is the magician of taste. Everyone starts laughing at this, and then they sing and dance before going to sleep. This is a new experience for Shiro, who used to eat dinner by himself on Earth, and he feels that having company while eating is a really great thing. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.